Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Monster Hunter World video. Today we're getting ready for Iceborne by becoming powerful fast. That's right, I've had a lot of people contact me with questions about like tips and tricks to get through the story mode. You know, they get stuck. There's a term called a wall where a new player will be stuck and they can't get past it. And there's a whole bunch of people picking up the base game now because Iceborne launches on September 6th. And, you know, you have to be Hunter rank 16 in order to get into the Master rank. You have to be done with the story as well, right? So there's all these players trying to get to that point so that when Iceborne launches, they can go right into Iceborne. And basically what this video is going to be, it's going to be a roadmap for those players. Maybe you just bought the game today. I will be starting from the very beginning and giving all of the best advice I can think of for somebody who just wants to get through the story mode efficiently and become very powerful so that when Iceborne launches, you can just go straight into Iceborne. Okay, this was the advice I would give myself, and I actually did just play through the whole story mode for Monster Hunter World on the PlayStation because I just recently bought a PlayStation. So I'm very familiar with this subject. I'm very familiar with the game itself because I've played it for like 3,100 hours, okay? So this is my best advice. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's assume you've just purchased the game and popped it into your console and you're asking yourself, oh my gosh, which weapon should I be using? This is actually a really common question as well. A lot of people are like, oh man, there's 14 weapons to choose from. Which one should I be using? In the past, normally my advice would be pick the weapon you think looks the best, or pick the weapon that you think sounds the most fun for you. But if you were to ask me which one would make me the most powerful, fast, which one would get me through the story mode quickly, I'd either go with the hammer, the longsword, or the greatsword. One of those three, the hammer and the greatsword are really great on ledges. You can roll off the ledge and then attack to pull yourself back on the ledge, and this does tons of damage. And in general, they just do really good damage, really good, we would call it raw damage, right? And this damage applies to every monster of every weakness type. It doesn't matter. They're just always going to do really consistent damage. The longsword is really cool as well. It has a move called Foresight Slash. When you use Foresight Slash, what you're doing is you're reacting to one of the monster's attacks. It kind of replaces your dodge, right? You use it rather than a dodge. It has a nice big iframe that goes right through the monster's attack. The longsword, the hammer, and the greatsword also all have really decent range. So there's all kinds of reasons to pick up these weapons. I would say also another main reason to use these weapons is because they run off of weakness exploit and they run off of crit boost, and that's mostly it. So health boost, weakness exploit, crit boost, and you're pretty well set with these weapon classes. Whereas other weapons get a lot more complicated and it takes time to learn how to really use those weapons. So like weapons that rely on elemental damage gets really complicated fast because you need to know which monster part to attack, what kind of what kind of elemental weaknesses it actually has. How can you build crit element into your build? So those get complicated, and then the ranged weapons are kind of complicated too. They typically rely on some really powerful endgame skills to start to become powerful the way the hammer, the longsword, and the greatsword are. Like the bow needs mighty bow and spread shot and force shot. The bowguns need like ammo up, and they need what's another great example? Spare shot, and they need ammo, right? So very early on in the game, you're not crafting good ammo. So hammer, longsword, and greatsword. Pick one of these threes for your starter weapon. That's what I would pick if I wanted to get through the story very quickly. Tip number 2 for somebody who's just trying to blow through the story nice and fast and get powerful in the end game. Don't build a bunch of weapons. Don't upgrade a bunch of weapons. You're going to have 2 upgrade trees. One of them is called the ore tree. The other one's called the bone tree. Simply take a look at which one's going to be stronger if you can, and pick that one and build for it, okay? So you're either going to build a bone weapon or an ore weapon. Or an ore. Yeah, so it could be like bone hammer or longsword, bone greatsword. Simple as that. You're just going to build that, fully upgrade that tree as you go through the story mode. Don't be tempted to build any of the other longswords, greatswords, or hammers because you don't need them. They're not going to help you. All you want is that good raw damage, and that's it. You're going to save materials, by the way, which is really useful later when you want to build charms. Your next question might be, what kind of build should I be using to get through the story mode? And the answer is really simple. Never, ever, ever skip out on Health Boost 3. Health Boost 3 increases your health bar, and this means having a higher threshold for being knocked out. So the monster might have knocked you out in, let's say, 2 moves when you have the small health bar. When you have the big health bar, now it's going to knock you out in 4 moves. And this extra survivability, in my opinion, is one of the best things that new players can do to get through the story mode without needing any help. Now, are there ways to build Health Boost 3 in low rank story mode? Yes. And are there ways to build Health Boost 3 in high rank story mode? Absolutely. So you always have a way to build for this skill. You can go to the smithy. There's a way to sort through skills, and you can see which armor sets to go after. You can also consider crafting the Health Boost charm as well. And that'll give you 1 level even if you only build the very beginning of the charm, okay? Later on in the game, when you really care about damage, you're going to try to build Weakness Exploit and you're going to try to build Crit Boost, okay? And Max Might as well and Handicraft as well are both really important. So Weakness Exploit, Crit Boost, Max Might, Handicraft. My next tip for you is, if you're struggling, you can always fire an SOS Flare to get help from strangers. Now, I find that this isn't always consistent because not everyone is looking to replay the story. The rewards aren't really there yet. I hear they're going to change that in Iceborne, but this isn't Iceborne yet, so we haven't had that update. So there's going to be players who, you know, might come in and help you, but they might be your level anyways. And one of the things you need to think about when you're firing an SOS Flare is the difficulty of the game does actually scale up when more people join. So if somebody joins and they're your level and they have your equipment, the fight didn't necessarily get easier, it actually might have just gotten harder. So you got to be careful how you use multiplayer. Let me say this, I have a Discord server that we use for LFG, finding other players, and one of the things we do is we help other players. And if you join that Discord server, you might be able to get somebody to help you from there, somebody who really knows what they're doing, and maybe they have like cluster bombs or some crazy setup, and they can maybe run you through a part of the story where you're really stuck. Especially if you tell them, Gameconomist told me to ask you for help. But who knows, maybe that won't work either. But yeah, if you'd like to join that server, there's a link in the description of the video, so check that out. And again, with the SOS Flares, you got to start your quest, go to your options, choose Fire SOS Flare, and then you're going to get randoms who are going to help you. And sometimes the randoms are going to be good, sometimes they might not be good. In my opinion, it's usually always easier to solo a monster, usually. Especially if you get the Fortitude skill onto your build, and similar to Health Boost, you can always get Fortitude in low rank and high rank. I believe low rank is the Jagras coil, is it not? And then high rank it would be the Zora Magdaros coil. So get that Fortitude skill, and Fortitude, when you die, Fortitude makes you more powerful. This is great if you're playing solo because you can die twice, become really powerful, and then the fight just becomes much, much more easy, okay? So consider that. Just use solo mode and Fortitude, but also, you know, SOS is an option, and especially if you find people in the server who will help you, that's probably your easiest option. Alright, let's summarize all of the tips that I've given you. Use Hammer, Longsword, or Greatsword as your starter weapon. Don't upgrade a bunch of weapons. Don't upgrade a bunch of armor. Build Health Boost 3. Build Fortitude as well. We should have thrown that in as well. So build Health Boost 3, build Fortitude. If you're struggling, you can SOS, or you can join my server and ask people for help. And then what you're going to do is zoom right through the story mode. Just hit the quest after quest after quest. Don't slow down. Beat them up with your weapon. Use your ledge hops. Use your foresight slash, you know. And once the story is complete, this is the part where you want to start to become powerful fast. Okay, so either way, you're going to have to trudge through the story. There's no way around it. You got to work your way through that story. And then you're ready to start working on approaching the end game and really trying to go fast there. This is where you could lose a lot of time. I think this is probably where most players lose time, but we're going to stay focused. I'm going to give you the best advice for becoming powerful. Okay, so becoming powerful. There's a lot of things I could have started out with. We're going to start out with finishing your garden. Okay, your garden is where you can go and you can cultivate all kinds of consumables that are used for crafting useful items. And this is such an important feature in the game that I figured we should talk about it first, because you need this in order to craft max potions. Max potions are one of my most consumed items. You use them to heal your full health bar immediately, but also it fills out your health bar. The way it works in Monster Hunter World is, you know, you can bring your health up with Health Boost 3, but there's always this chunk of health left over that is missing from your health bar that you can max out by A, eating at the canteen for, let's say, Chef's Choice Platter. I have a bunch of videos on the canteen. Go watch one of those. But yeah, eat the Chef's Choice Platter to try and max your health bar out, or eat a max potion. Eating a max potion will finish your health bar out. So not only does it finish your health bar, but also if you're in a lot of danger, you're almost dead, you got like 1 hit left, you eat that max potion, it eats very quickly, and then it fills your whole health bar out. Well, if you want to be able to craft those max potions, you're going to need Bitterbug, Blue Mushroom, Honey, and Mandragora. Okay, so you need those 4 ingredients to make max potions, and you can always run around and grab them while you're fighting monsters, which you should be, by the way. Mandragora, though, is just a bit harder to find. You don't really run past it all too often, and so it's really important that you're able to upgrade your botanical research garden or center, and be able to farm those mandragoras so that you have enough to craft max potions. Also, honey in general is really useful for all kinds of things that you craft, but it's also important for mega potions. If you can't afford max potions, you should be using mega potions. Mega potions are simply a potion, which you can buy potions, and then you combine that with the honey, and this gives you a mega potion, and those are your main way of healing for cheap, okay? So get your Botanical Research Center upgraded early. You can do this by doing the optional quests and always talking to those guys hanging around that area, okay? Alright, we talked about mega potions, we talked about max potions. Let's talk about the monster you should fight right after finishing the story mode. In my opinion, the very, very best thing you can do is run off and start the Witcher DLC, okay? Get the Witcher DLC started and go fight the regular Leshen in the Trouble in the Ancient Forest special assignment, okay? The reason why you're going to do this, you're going to have to do it like once or twice or 3 times, is because you're going to unlock the Geralt armor set. It's a full armor set, meaning that you have to wear all pieces of the set or none of the pieces of the set. You have to wear the whole thing. It's a really powerful early game armor set because it comes with 3 levels of weakness exploit, meaning if you have no weakness exploit decorations, you can still reach weakness exploit 3, which is going to be really useful. The other nice things about the set is that it comes with health boost 3, recovery 3, and super recovery. And this is going to help you kind of conserve your mega potions while you're trying to build up a stock of mega potions. So it's a nice little defensive set, but it also comes with weakness exploit 3, and you can throw on like the handicraft charm, and if you happen to have a crit boost decoration, you can throw in the crit boost decoration, max might, whatever it is that you have, right? Maybe like Elementalist. So it's a really, really powerful early game set, and it's so good. When I played through on the PlayStation account, I finished all of the game with just the Witcher set. I even defeated the extreme Behemoth, who is easily considered the most difficult monster in the game. I was just wearing my Witcher set, okay? So it's a very decent set. You just got to play a little careful. If you're going to do like the level 50 monsters, you got to play a little careful, right? But it's a really decent set. And again, it does help you conserve your mega potions and your max potions because you don't have to heal as much because the character actually heals so quickly on its own. And after you're done fighting the Leshen and picking up that Geralt set, you can move on to picking up the Temporal Mantle. So the Temporal Mantle is a reward for finishing the Lunastra DLC. Now, Lunastra, she's an Elder Dragon. She's considered one of the more difficult Elder Dragons, but you're not fighting the Arch-Tempered version of her. Bring your Fireproof Mantle if you've got Fireproof Mantle. Bring your Fire Resistance. Eat for Elemental Resist Large. Know that you can use Farcasters to get out of her Supernova, right? So go do the Lunastra DLC right afterwards. This is exactly what I would do. I would do Witcher first, then Lunastra DLC second. And this is going to give you that Temporal Mantle, and the Temporal Mantle is going to continue to be one of your best pieces of gear that you're ever going to use in the game. It's super powerful. It just basically just automatically dodges for you, and even with the Iceborne nerf coming to the Temporal Mantle, I believe with the nerf, it's only going to dodge 5 times. Even with that nerf, that's still better than a lot of mantles. Like Rocksteady Mantle doesn't do any of that. It just reduces the damage you take, and Rocksteady is legitimately still going to be very good, but you have to go through the trouble of unlocking it, and that takes a while. And then Vitality Mantle is nowhere near as good as the Temporal Mantle. Vitality will absorb like maybe 1 or 2 blows, but the Temporal Mantle, even with 5 flips, right, 5 auto rolls, that's still better than the Vitality. So go do the Lunastra DLC right after you're done with the Witcher DLC. You'll have the Witcher set, and you'll have the Temporal Mantle, and you're going to be feeling a lot more powerful when you pick those up. Okay, so let's say at this point, now you have your Geralt set, and now you have your Temporal Mantle. What do you do next? Really simply, if she's available, you want to go and grind TAROTH. She sounds like she's going to be a scary fight because she's titled Arch-Tempered, right? She's Arch-Tempered TAROTH. She's actually one of the easier fights in the game, especially if you took the time to kind of learn her beforehand. Speaking of which, if you haven't watched it, I have a 6-minute video on how to farm her quickly, and I have a 50-minute video that goes in depth and talks about a whole bunch of her mechanics. You can go watch those 2 videos if you want. I'll leave links in the I'll leave it in the comment section. I don't know where people click more, the description or the comment section. It's something that I always wondered. Anyways, I'll leave links to that. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. TAROTH is one of the fastest rewarding monsters in the game. She drops meta weapons basically, so if you can get through 1 solid reward cycle of TAROTH, there's a fair chance you're going to pick up a meta weapon like right off the bat. Mostly what you're going to be looking for is 2 particular weapons. The Sleep Hammer, this is a rarity 8 hammer that is known for being one of the best hammers in the game, or the best longsword in the game, which is the TAROTH Fire Longsword, and there's a whole bunch of other meta weapons that you can pick up from her. There's just so many, I don't think I'm going to list them off in this video. But also, if TAROTH isn't around, then you probably need some advice on which meta weapons to pick up for each of those weapon classes I listed. In general, there's going to be the same rule for most weapons. It's either going to be a Deviljho weapon or it's going to be a Diablos weapon. So for the hammer, I actually have been leaning toward the Deviljho hammer over the Diablos hammer just because it pairs with the Handicraft 3 charm, and then you have room for building things like health boost. The longsword is going to be similar. You're going to go with the Deviljho longsword, and the greatsword is similar. You're going to go with the Deviljho greatsword. And yeah, so we really like Deviljho for damage in this game. There's exceptions. So like you could consider the Lunastra weapons as well. Lunastra Ruin weapons pair especially well with the Draken armor set. Lunastra Blaze weapons come with built-in guts, which is great for the end game fights. In particular, I think that they really help with Arch-Tempered Nergigante. And then there is the Kolv weapons, which we just mentioned. Okay, so Lunastra weapons, Deviljho weapons, Diablos weapons. None of these really use Diablos except for hammer, and that's it. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention, for the greatsword, I mentioned that you should craft the Deviljho greatsword, but actually it's the second best greatsword right now. The best greatsword is the Wyverian Ignition Impact greatsword, and the reason it's so strong is just because it deals really high raw damage, and it's actually very easy to obtain. You just have to go play the Every Hunter's Dream. This is an event quest that comes around every time a festival is going on. There's a festival going on right now. And if you pick this up, this is like one of the most powerful weapons in the game, even across all of the other weapon classes. It's nuts how strong it is. So go pick up that greatsword. If you can't, then you use the Deviljho greatsword. But if you can pick up the Impact greatsword, you want the Impact greatsword. It's really strong. I also wanted to mention that while you're working on picking up a decent meta weapon for whichever weapon class you've chosen, you want to make sure that you're getting your weekly bounties done, okay? So weekly bounties, when you're getting these done, you can do these at the same time you're working on an investigation or whatever it is you're working on. Get these done. They're going to give you armor spheres, which you use to upgrade your armor. I never really had trouble with armor spheres. In fact, I usually have more than I ever need, but these will give you even more armor spheres. And most importantly, if you do all of the weekly bounties and get them done before the next week, you get a gold Wyverian print. And this gold Wyverian print can be traded in for a gem of your choice. This is extremely useful, and what I recommend is stocking up on those gems before you need them, right? So you might go to do an augmentation at HR 50 for maybe like health regen. You need a Nergigante gem. You don't have a Nergigante gem, so you just trade in one of your gold Wyverian prints. So go ahead, get the weekly bounties done. They're decent rewards, and they help you with the armor spheres. And you're going to need parts from the monsters that those weekly bounties ask you to fight anyways, because you're going to want to start to work on charms. I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so now you've got the Geralt set, you've got a meta weapon, you're working on your farm. What do you do next? You start knocking out all of your optional quests. There's quite a few of them, and even more will probably pop up as you make progress. You want to get all those optional quests done because they contribute toward unlocking new mantles, new gear. You want to get that all set up as fast as you can because it's a good idea to get that gear going, right? And as you start doing all the optional quests, your HR level will go up. The goal is to reach HR 50 so you can start augmenting weapons. So you're knocking out these optional quests, you're picking up a Zenny, you're picking up monster parts, you're raising your level, you're getting the weekly bounties done, you're getting a little bit of practice in, right? At some point, when you can afford it and when you have the parts, you want to go ahead and craft the PowerTalon, Power Charm, ArmorTalon, and Armor Charm, okay? So these are 4 items, and you can put them in your inventory. They give you a permanent increase to your attack values and your defense values, as long as they're in your inventory. You have to keep them in there. You're going to need, I believe, Basilgu's claws or something like that. You buy a power charm from the guy who sells merchandise, and then you craft it into a power talon, and then you just buy a second power charm, and they actually stack. The armor talon, the armor charm work exactly the same way. So pick those up. They make you more powerful. My next recommendation is more about information than it is about something to go grab in the game, and that is to learn how to use the Radial menu and to learn how to organize your item bar. I have a whole video on this. Actually, in the video, I talk about the Power Talon and the Power Charm in there as well. If you can learn to use the Radial menu, I think that is one of the most important skills in the game for survivability, because you learn how to get your, whatever it is you need, a Stair Jerky, Nullberry, Mega Potions, maybe a Firecaster, right? All of your stuff's going to be in there. It also helps you with auto crafting, right? The radio menu does. So it's really important that you learn how to use the radio menu properly as soon as you can. It's just going to make your life a lot easier. So at this point, you have zoomed through all of the optional quests thanks to all of the terrific advice the Thegameconomist gave you, and you're wondering what to do next. Well, there's a few more end game activities you want to work on. The next thing I would say, though, is go ahead and defeat the regular Behemoth. That's part of the Behemoth DLC. You're going to have a team to defeat him. He has scaled up health for you can go solo him if you're really skilled, but if you're not really skilled, you're probably going to want to do it with some friends. Maybe you met them in my Discord, or maybe you do it with randoms. Either way, you got to go fight this guy. He gives you one of the best armor sets in the game. It's called the Draken Armor Set. It's known for the Master's Touch skill. The way Master's Touch works is if you're landing critical hits on the monster, which you should be because critical damage is the best way to get your damage up. If you're landing critical hits on the monster, you keep your white sharpness. No sharpness there's no sharpness cost as long as it's a critical hit. So this ended up being the meta for a very long time, and I think that the Iceborne balance changes are going to start to make it less relevant. However, right now it's still really good and Iceborne hasn't come out. So go and fight the regular Behemoth with some friends. Pick up that Draken armor set. You can even pick up the armor set without having to defeat him. I have videos on how to farm the armor set off of him. You just use the Plunder Blade and you got to break his arms basically, and then you can leave with the broken arm pieces. But yeah, so you can farm up his armor set without defeating him if you truly have no internet and you don't have any friends, like me. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, you can pick up the armor set without defeating him. I recommend defeating him though, just because you should. If you can't defeat him, you're going to have trouble in Iceborne. You probably really will, right? Because he's not even the hardest monster in the base game, right? So you're going to defeat the regular Behemoth, and then after you're done with the regular Behemoth, you're really going to start to have a decent set. You should have some of the charms now, especially the Weakness Exploit charm, which you can pair with the Draken armor set, and you should have Weakness Exploit 3, because you should have, hopefully by now, 1 Weakness Exploit decoration. So that should top you off with 3 Weakness Exploit. You're going to have 2 crit boosts from the Draken armor set. Now you're really starting to hit hard, right? You're really starting to do the good damage, which is what you want to do. And you can learn a little more about your weapon class, what builds are best for it. There's all kinds of builds. Once you've reached this point in the game, there's all kinds of useful builds for every weapon. You can explore other weapon classes if you want, or you can just take your very strongest set and go grind Cove TAROTH now. If she's available, grind the heck out of her, pick up a few more meta weapons. Or, this is the other thing you could do, rather than picking it, let's say that you went with the Greatsword path, or if you got the Wyvern Ignition Impact Greatsword, you're done. There's no better Greatsword than that right now. So instead of that, you can just go fight tempered monsters with the tempered investigations and get as many decorations as you can until you hit HR 50. At Hunter rank 50, you're going to be given another story mode quest. Just go knock that out, it's not too bad. And you're going to be given the ability to augment your weapons. And augmentation is basically a way to, you get to choose what the augmentation is, and it makes your weapon different. You can raise the attack, the defense, the affinity. Health regen is a thing where you attack the monster and it heals you. Well, guess what people choose? Health regen. Health regen is a big deal on these weapons. Most of the weapons, not the bow with the spread shot, not the heavy bowgun with spread shot either, right? But for mostly everything else, health regen is going to be your #1 pick for the augmentation. After 1 augmentation of health regen, if you have another slot, because you're using a weapon that has 2 augmentations or 3 augmentation slots, you go with affinity. Affinity is almost always your second best option. There are some rare exceptions like the TAROTH Crest Claw, very rare exceptions though. Also, at HR 50, now you've unlocked better ways to farm for decorations. So you get access to the names Lavasiath event quest. This comes from the festivals, as well as the Greatest Jagras event quest, and these give you more decorations faster. So if you're still missing decorations at this point, those are going to be your best methods for farming for decorations. Finally, let's talk about charms. So you don't want to miss out on unlocking your charms. They're just way too valuable. They give you access to multiple builds. What you could have done is, if you're really, really focused, you just take 1 meta weapon and your whole build is based around it. You get to the Draken armor and then you get the 1 charm you need and you forget about charms. But what I recommend, because eventually you're going to want to try other weapons, you're going to want to try other builds. Iceborne's going to have all kinds of new builds, and your charms, they pass forward into Iceborne, right? So I recommend start working on all your charms, start unlocking them, and this is really an end game activity you can do if you've got everything else. So probably decorations are more important than charms at this point, but The reason for that is because the charms are always available to be crafted. Decorations, if you got a festival going on and the name's Lavasiath is around, you should probably be farming him first, worrying about the charms a little bit later. But yeah, work on your charms, get those ready for Iceborne, especially pick up Handicraft, Max Might, Weakness Exploit, Crit Eye, Attack Boost, Health Boost, Protection, maybe, I don't know, actually I like a lot of the charms, they're all really good. The charm slot's so efficient because, you know, a lot of pieces of armors constrict how many skills you can add to that armor set, but the charm slot, you can add like up to 3 of something, so like 3 handicraft, that's so good. 3 earplugs maybe, 3 wind resistance, 3 evade window, and there's more. 3 KO, for example, is really good with the sticky ammo. Free element, ammo up, there's not a lot of good armor pieces for that particular skill, so the charm slot's useful for that. I think I already mentioned artillery. Did I mention guard? Guard's really good. If you don't have the guard up skill, but you really want to use a lance, then you probably want to build the guard up charm, right? So go work on your charms. It's a real end game activity along with the decorations, okay? And that is my roadmap for becoming powerful fast for Iceborne. I hope that helps. I think even after Iceborne launches, this information is mostly really useful for players who are just trying to get to the point where they can start playing Iceborne. I mean, there'll probably be a few changes, like I don't know what they're going to do for Clutch Claw. I don't know about Max Might. Max Might's getting nerfed. Weakness Exploit's kind of getting nerfed. So there are some little bits of information might change, but for the most part, all the information in this guy is actually really useful. Focusing on the decorations and the charms, getting through the story mode quickly by thinking efficiently, you know, picking one good raw weapon, don't build a bunch of other stuff, just pick a good weapon and zoom right through, right? I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. I'm going to thank you all for watching. Thank you, by the way, to all of my Patreon supporters. I'm going to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.